What's up, everybody? My name is John Bautista, and you're listening to the Marriage Savvy Podcast, where being savvy about your marriage could help you not get finessed by it. We got something special for you today. We got our boss, CEO, El Jefe, all right, who runs things out here, and is our relationship guru, Kim Bowen. Welcome to the show, Kim.
I'm not sure I can beat El Jefe. Is that what that's not what you call me? El Jefe.
Yeah,
it kind of sounds in my language like heifer. Let's. Anyway, yeah. So I'm Kim Bowen. I own and founded the Marriage Place about 13, 14 years ago. I wanted to do this work because my own marriage went through a really hard season, a long, hard season, and somehow through a lot of hit and miss and blunderings, we got through it. And I realized, that there's not a lot of really good resources out there at that time anyway to help couples. And so here we are.
Thank you so much for sharing a part of your story, Kim. I'm sure that our listeners are curious, like, what is a pattern that you see in relationships these days?
Yeah. So I see this kind of thing come through my office quite frequently, but right now I'm dealing with 2 or 3 different couples where I'm hearing the standard phrases like, I love him, but I'm not in love with him anymore. Or a couple where the fighting is escalating and they are having trouble finding soft moments with each other. There's so much anger and resentment. And the husband threw his hands up in the air this week and just said, it just shouldn't be this hard. It just shouldn't be this hard. And that is so defeating to me as a therapist to hear that, because that comes from being psychologically conditioned by our society and our culture, right? That we don't know what love should look like, that it is hard work, and that if you base your marriage on feelings, then your marriage will not last.
It's interesting to note that people think that marriage and relationship should be easy. It's like an expectation that they should be.
Well,
I don't know where that comes from.
every Hallmark movie you watch, every you know, every song, of rainbows and tiptoeing in the moonlight and
Yeah,
love is all you need. Isn't there a song?
I'm
Love
pretty
is all you
sure.
need.
Yeah, a few of them out there.
Yeah, yeah. And I
That's
think the
right.
Beatles even said it. So it's been
Yeah,
around a
no.
while. Yeah.
So let's get a definition down. I think it would be helpful to define our terms. What is love?
Love is a lot of things, but mostly
Okay.
it's an action. That's when I think about what love is. I think
Yeah.
it's an action. It is showing up and willing to act lovingly, even when you are busy, distracted, irritable, not feeling a whole lot of
Hmm.
goodwill toward your partner. You're loving them when you show up
Yeah. Yeah.
to love them.
From
Yeah.
my understanding, love is definitely a verb. It's definitely an action. It's something that we do, but it's also done for, the best interest of the object. And so, if I were to say, I love my cousin, or I love my brother, or I love pizza,
Pizza.
it's
I mean, we use the
yeah,
word for everything. I love my kids. I love my pets. I love pizza.
yeah.
It's
It
easy to
really
get
is.
confused, right?
It really is. And love is really acting in the best interest of someone else, right? It's
Mhm.
some sense of sacrifice and selflessness. It's other oriented, it's other seeking. I don't know how many songs or movies and even TV shows where I've seen
Really show that.
love as an action in the best interest of the other person. In fact, there was a recent TV show I was looking at. It's a show in the 90s called Boy Meets World, and you have Corey and Topanga. They're finally married, but most of the episode, maybe about
Mhm.
30 out of the 40 minutes, they were fighting. They were name calling. They were tearing each other down with their words and their behavior, and then maybe spent the last minute and a half, 2 minutes, 3 minutes of them fighting for the relationship. Most of the episode was fighting with each other and not for each other.
Yeah, I like that. The fight with, but not the fight for. I like that. Yeah. You know, most things that are worth having are difficult at some point to
Yeah.
obtain, right? And so even when you think about it, our society has changed so much, um, from the way men and women view each other, what they need and want from each other, all the way from, hundreds of years ago where marriage was about safety or financial
Right.
security or whatever to, um, patriarchy, man ahead of the house, woman home, wearing pearls, trying to do the dishes, take care of the kids, to whatever it is we have today. But even our relationships are just not surviving. Like even children and parents, like it is a thing right now going no contact with your parents. And honestly,
Yeah.
quite frankly, most of the time, I think that's just a horrible abuse of uh, power. The person who cares the least has the most control. And so it's a punitive way of dealing
Hmm.
with people that are difficult in your life. And we do that with our spouse as well. And so we don't know how to be relational anymore. We don't know how to do it with our friendships, with our
Hmm.
family members, with our kids, with our parents, with our spouses. And so if we don't figure this out, if this pendulum doesn't shift in some way, I really fear for what that means for us as a society because we're breaking down at a very fundamental level. And it's quite frightening, really.
Yeah. It's pretty unsettling. I mean, I'm thinking about, if we're not able to relate to each other, what does that mean, and what does that say about us relating to ourselves? Like if we're not able
Yeah.
to um, relate to ourselves, then I don't think we're gonna relate to someone else, right? Like empathy is this idea of going into self in order to identify and connect with someone else and what they're feeling and
That's very true. But I feel like we have to be careful with that because I think some of what got us in trouble in this area was this whole idea of self over others,
hmm,
of loving ourselves to the exclusion of loving others. See, we're created for connection. We are
yeah,
born for connection, and we
hmm,
heal through connection.
yeah,
And so what is the first thing we do when we hurt? We isolate or we hurt in return, which is
hmm,
so defeating of the whole purpose of everything.
hmm,
And so, yes, what you're saying is very important. And we teach this a lot, in the work that we do, that you have to have a good relationship with yourself. You have to know who you are, what you want, what you need, and then you have to know how to get it and how to ask for it.
yeah,
Right. But what happens too when we don't know that, and then we get in difficult relationships or people who are demanding or annoying or hurtful, we're not equipped. We don't know how to set boundaries and hold them. We don't know how to, you know, take care of ourselves in that space. And so we cut off.
yeah,
We cut off from parents when it's not necessary to cut off, but it is necessary to have good boundaries. It is necessary because they protect relationships. It
right,
is necessary to learn how to say, that doesn't feel good. And then we do the same thing with our spouses. And so I'll see couples spend years and years being quiet and dealing with their hurt in their own private ways and then pulling away. And then one day they're just done. When if they'd had good boundaries, if
hmm,
they'd known themselves, if they'd known how to take care of themselves early on, they could have avoided so much of that. We're getting kind of deep in this, aren't we? Like it's really, it's not like, so what's love, right? So, but we're really talking about the dynamics here. I
right,
love it.
right. And we're talking about people, and people, there's a depth to each and every one of us. So when we talk about being marriage savvy and us thinking about love and relationships, and is love all we need? So what would you say, how can we have a balance of loving self and being able to love self in a healthy way in order to love others in a healthy way? So what are some things that can help us keep that balance, and what else do we need, like aside from love, aside from being able to act on someone else's best interest? What else do you think we need?
Again, nuanced and complicated, but there are there's a term that we use a lot in our therapy at the marriage place, and it's called differentiation. And to be healthy in any relationship, you have to have this key component. And so what differentiation means in, differentiation for dummies basically is, it is knowing yourself. So know who you are, know what you like, what you need, what you don't want. Um, know your core wounds, because most of us walk around hurting and we don't know why, and we start looking for other people to fill it, right? Knowing yourself that well. So that requires self-reflection, it requires healing. It requires doing your work, right? And then because you've done that work and you're healing and you're not operating from a wounded state, you know when you're being reasonable and when you're being unreasonable. And when you're being reasonable, you know how to ask. And you can also hear no. So when your partner's not able or willing at that moment to give us what we want or we need, then we can act like mature adults about it. We don't threaten, we don't pout, we don't blow up and rage, we don't give them the silent treatment for days and days, right? And so if we're differentiated and show up in that way, we're doing our really good work of how to be relational. And then there's this other aspect of it too, and that is, I'm going to be differentiated with you, meaning I'm going to be a safe place for you to tell me who you really are and what you really think. And I'm not going to make you pay for that. I'm not going to get upset. I'm not going to tell you to get on with it. Why are we still talking about this? I'm not going to tell you that um, I'm not going to punish you because it's not what I want to hear. Even if I don't agree at all with what you're saying, I am a safe space for you. And when we can do that with each other, now we're doing serious grown up relationship. And when every relationship, and I don't care how well functioning you are, how healthy you are, it is a constant cycle of togetherness, rupture. Something happens to rupture, pull us apart, get us upset, off kilter, whatever, then repair. And knowing how to do repair really, really well. And then we're together again. And if you skip that step, then the distance will continue to grow and grow and resentment builds. And so to have a healthy relationship, you have to have all those things in place. And it's a process.
Yeah. So just from what I hear you saying, you're saying uh, an awareness of self,
Mhm,
safety, differentiation,
mhm.
and being able to repair well.
Yes.
I think I missed that class in high school.
It always I thought when I first learned to do this work, and I was already well married, almost divorced before I figured this out. And I'm like, dang, like, to get a driver's license, like, you gotta figure stuff
Right,
out. They
right,
give you a book, you gotta you gotta learn, you gotta practice,
right.
then you have to pass a test. To get a marriage license, you just show up, throw some money on the counter, and good luck.
You have a license to be together for the rest of your life. Good luck. Wow. That's so helpful. Because one, I mean, I think that the culture, like in these days, really is emphasizing mental health and self care and being able to identify what you need. But then also, I don't think that there's this idea of, hey, creating safe spaces for other people and being able to communicate your needs and being able to, I like what you said, hear and receive a no, and that
Yeah.
be okay.
So I've got another client. I adore this couple, but man, they're tough. And um, he comes from a very wounded place. And I tell him he's got a firefighter. And when it gets hurt, when somebody steps on that wound, he comes out and scorches the earth, right?
Mm,
Because he's so angry and he'll say horrible, horrible things. And he loves his wife, but he really does get to this place where he's like, that's it, I'm done. I'm like, you're not done. You're not done. You're going to calm down and you're not going to feel this way. But now you've done a lot of damage,
mm,
right? And I will talk to her alone when he's not in the room. And she will say, I am always walking on eggshells. And every time I feel like it start to feel safe where I can lean in to him, something will happen. I don't even know what causes it. And he will come out like that. And then I'm like, I don't even know what to do with that. The things he says is so hurtful.
Mm.
And so I pull back. And then once he scorches the earth, once he vents out, he's like, okay, well, all right. We're, sorry. Shouldn't have handled it that way. Bad me, whatever. Ready to kind of pull it back in. That's his
Yeah,
idea of repair, right? But she's just over there just devastated.
of course.
And then he gets mad that she's not recovering quickly enough,
Mm.
you know? And so this is such a differentiation issue for them because he doesn't know his own woundedness enough to know that this is a him problem, not a her problem,
Yeah.
right? That she's touching that wound and he is reacting as if she's intentionally coming after him for blood when
Hmm.
she's not.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know himself very well. And he's not a safe space for her because when he is hurt and he is reactive, as much as he loves her, he'd lay down on the floor and die for her if he needed to, but he's not a safe space. And so
Yeah.
if I can't help him get to that place of differentiation, I don't know. I don't know that they'll make it.
Yeah. Man. And we want people to get there. Like
Yeah.
everything that we
Yeah.
do in our work is to one help a person, be the mirror, be the reflection that they need to see what's going on inside themselves, but then also realize, hey, like my actions impact the people that are closest to me.
Mm-hmm.
And for marriages, I mean, it's day in and day out impacting the person that's closest to you. It's day in and day out that you're
Day in and
impacting the
day.
person that you wake up to and you go to sleep to.
And we talk about love and what is love. Another really important aspect to this is not just the action of love. And it's not just the differentiation, although those are both critical and important pieces to it. But there's also this thing of, you know, your marriage is this separate entity. So it's Kim and my husband John, right? So there's two of us, Kim, John, and then there's our marriage. Three separate beings. And the marriage lives in the space or the atmosphere that John and Kim create together.
Mm,
So we create the atmosphere that gives life to the marriage. So we're either poisoning the environment with bad attitudes, with critical remarks, nagging behaviors, complaints, criticisms, blame shifting, all that stuff. We're either doing that and it's poisoning the air, or we are taking care of our environment, which lets the relationship thrive.
mm,
Now, our relationship is strong enough today. Thank you, Jesus. Our relationship is strong enough today that one of us can have a bad day and we can have a rupture. I can come home in a bad mood and say something snippy, or, John can do something that kind of torques me just a little bit, right? And we put a little poison in the air, but our relationship is still okay because it's a healthy environment overall, right? And
right.
so we know how to come in, make quick repair so we can get that out. It's like a good ventilation system. We want that
Yeah.
out. We want to get rid of that in the air, right?
Right.
And so when you keep putting that stuff in and the environment just gets more and more toxic. And I think of those, I saw that documentary about Chernobyl and how the environment, that place is just really toxic. Like
Yeah.
animals are now having two heads and, nothing's growing really well there. And
Yeah.
I think that's the environment people are creating for their own marriages, for their own relationships,
Mm,
and then wondering why they're struggling.
yeah.
They can't breathe. Nobody can breathe clean air.
Mm-mm.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Toxic and all the awful and horrible ingredients to make an environment
Mhm.
unstable and kind of suffocate you and produce
Yeah.
death.
So I see like financial infidelity, right?
Mm,
Financial betrayal.
yeah.
And somebody will purchase things, not tell their spouse, lie about it. It used to be a thing, like joke, like hiding clothes you buy in the closet, not telling your husband that you did. And he says, "Oh, is that new?" "Oh, no, I've had that a while." Well, it was in the closet for 6 months and hidden in the back, right? But but even just that, like, kind of seems harmless on
Yeah.
some level, right? But what's it doing to the environment that you're breathing,
Yeah.
right? You're just putting toxic air. Why do that? Why
Mm,
risk that?
yeah. A lot of us don't know what we're putting into the atmosphere, into
Yes.
our third identity atmosphere, the
Yeah.
us. that we create.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're so worried about climate change. We need to focus on our home climate, don't we?
That's so true. That's so true. Well, Kim, thanks so much for being on today. We talked about what is love and is it all that we need? And we realized today that it's not all that we need. We need to be able to differentiate. We need to be able to create safe spaces. We need to be able to be self-aware and do the work that it takes to contribute positively to this us that we create. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I think at some point let's do a segment on what to do when you're not feeling the feelings, because you don't, they're not everything, but they're important.
Right.
Right? They're not all you need, but they're icing on the cake.
Ooh.
So how do you increase feelings of love?
Man, that's going to be a really interesting episode. So guys, everyone that's been tuning in, you're going to want to come back and listen to episode 2 where we talk about feelings and feelings of love. Once again, my name is John Bautista. You've been listening to the Marriage Savvy podcast, where being savvy about your marriage could help you not get finessed by it. Y'all stay safe out there. Peace.